Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. This podcast, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Level, we've arrived. It is March Madness, one of the best weeks/weekends ahead for sports, if not the best for a lot of fans out there. And the Red Raiders are dancing, so that's what makes it even more fun. But how are we today, Level?
Yeah, well, it's spring break for a lot of folks,
True.
Which is great. Embrace that. You use it, safe travels and all that. I can remember as a youngster somewhere in Colorado. That part I can't remember, but I remember eating dinner with my parents somewhere when we were snow skiing, and we could probably narrow down the year based on this, but I remember watching Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas
Oh,
on
wow.
the small TV up in the corner of this, ski town restaurant or whatever. And they're like, "Hey, get over here and eat." I'm like, "No, game, watching it." Yeah. So yeah, I would have been like I don't even know if I would have been a teenager by then, but
Yeah.
yeah. So happy spring break to all those that celebrate. If you're having to work and you're having to do some adulting or whatever, I just know you got a little tickle in your throat and you're starting to come down with something. Start laying the groundwork now for Thursday and Friday, and just kind of, man, it's just not getting any better. I mean, you got to, kind of again lay the groundwork there and
Hey, there's a reason
don't.
that the majority of men get their man procedure done this
Hey,
week, like more than
yeah,
any other.
frozen peas.
Frozen peas. Yep. I mean, it's brilliant. You sit there, if you've got to get it done, then do it and watch 4 days of basketball while laid up. So
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
it's one approach. So hopefully
But
you get
but
to.
but yeah, it's a great time of year. Great week.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I know we talked about it some last week, but it is just as good as it gets because, and I don't know, maybe it's always been this way, but it feels like the last 5 to 7 tournaments, it's as unpredictable as ever. And that can make you nervous as a Texas Tech fan, or it can make you as excited as a Texas Tech fan because it could say, "Hey, you can go all the way here, or you could lose a game you're not supposed to," and that's the beauty of it all. But we get the bracket reveal. What was first? I'll let you take it from a Texas Tech centric, and then kind of expand outward from there. But what was the initial reaction as far as Texas Tech goes on what you saw for the bracket?
Well, so I knew. I mean, you wake up on a Sunday morning, and we got the team got home Saturday afternoon
Hmm.
after being in Kansas City since Tuesday. Been a long week, and then you're dealing with a couple of guys that sit out of the game, and you're just kind of tired and you're worn down, and it's like, okay, catch your breath and wake up Sunday and like, okay, here we go. It seemingly all pointed to Denver or Wichita, which is what we thought. I kind of had always thought that this was more 3 seed than 2 seed. You start doing the math, and I just didn't know, not that they wouldn't squeeze somebody, because we darn sure saw some folks get squeezed.
No doubt.
I just didn't know. I didn't know if they would give you a two over somebody else that probably on paper had better stuff. Not that stopped them on anything else. Um, it didn't surprise. And then when you lose to Arizona, missing a couple guys, you lose to Arizona in a close game. Everybody kind of in that world drops you to a 3, which is kind of where I thought you'd probably be anyways. but it seems like you were the one of the best, if not the best three seed. And then it was so these were the other two things that I was just fascinated by, worried about, excited about. I don't know, all up into one. I The whole Ole Miss thing.
Yeah.
I think fans would have eaten it up. I think some it would have been a content machine. However, I guess I didn't want that because I didn't want that for Grant. I didn't
Yeah.
want him to have to deal with all that. In a way, it would have been a no-win situation for him. And I was like, God, don't do that to him, like kind of deal. And you have to win your first game, and they would have had to win if it would have came to that. But anyway, you don't have to deal with any of that. They get sent elsewhere. And then the other one was, and I had to actually do some checking on it. I'm like, because I saw people starting to suggest this is going to be a BYU second round game. I'm like, wait, can't happen in the
No.
same league, and that's always been a rule.
Yeah.
However, after doing a little digging, it absolutely could have happened because you only played them one time.
Yep.
Okay, so and then they can't play on Sundays. So this would have so they had to be shoehorned if they were seated in that spot and I just didn't want that. They've been playing really good lately. I
Sure.
wanted some
Sure.
unfamiliar opponent is what I was kind of rooting for instead of I just watched BYU in person the other day and Houston punked them, but I also watched BYU do really mean and terrible things to Iowa
Iowa
State
State. Yeah.
the night before. Now, granted, it was a 4-point game, but they put up nearly 100 points on and like 18 three-pointers on Iowa State and that big time defense
Yeah.
in front of a Iowa State home crowd. Anyways, so you get Wichita, you get a 3 seed, you get UNC Wilmington, and you get either Missouri or Drake. And I don't know if anybody should look at it and go, oh yeah, we got taken care of, or anybody should look at it and go, oh God, I'm scared to death. I mean, these are all. I don't know if anybody out there just loves their matchup.
Yeah.
If these teams that you're playing play their A game, they're all going to be tough. That's the way it's supposed to be. Um, so I mean, you're like what a 15 and a half, 16 point favorite as you get this week going.
Yes.
And we can get into UNC Wilmington and kind of what they are, and Coach Siddle's team, who's actually faced a Grant coach team in recent years, and we can get into that. But the Missouri Drake thing, that's a bit tricky. Although I'll take it. I think personally. I like that better than the BYU Ole Miss scenario. But that's just me being a wuss.
Yeah, I get it. I was actually shocked that they did not set up the Ole Miss. I figured we see it so much with the NCAA tournament. If they can grab a storyline, they love to do that. And I was a little bit surprised that they didn't take advantage of that.
Oh, they were working on way too many other storylines, Choice Woodman.
Well, yeah, like how can we get our athletics director here, that's the vice chair, to
Yeah.
not get blamed for North Carolina getting in, even though that's the whole reason. Yeah, there's lots of storylines. So level, as we before we look into the matchup itself, we'll start with a question because you mentioned it kind of in passing there, but you're without a couple of guys, Chance McMillan, Darrion Williams, in the Big 12 tournament, yet you still fight. I mean, that's one thing. That is a team that could have laid down and lost by 20 points easily, and no one really would have blamed them in a conference tournament. But somehow you just stick around, and you have zero losses where you've gotten blown out just this entire season. And there's been opportunities for it, but I think it embodies Grant McCasland, I think first and foremost, and that's pretty obvious. But I thought what we saw out of Texas Tech against Arizona was pretty impressive circumstances surrounding.
Yeah, they've had that same group. Now, granted, you sprinkled in a little Leon Horner in the one versus Arizona, but it was largely the same group that you went toe to toe with University of Houston with
Yeah.
in Lubbock in front of a Pat Mahomes and a just a phenomenal atmosphere and crowd that you went at it with on a neutral floor against Arizona, and now that's a 1 seed, and what did they put Arizona as a 4?
4, yeah.
Yeah, so that you went at it with 6 and 6.5 players against two of the best teams in the country,
Yep.
and you hung. You didn't win, so we're clear, but you
Sure.
you you hung, you competed, and I do think you're right. I mean, like I knew when Grant was being really feisty over there and he picked up the technical foul,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh yeah, he's here for it.
Yeah.
Like he's going to set the tone. He is not going to give in at all to any sort of circumstance. And ultimately, it probably worked out the best the way it played out.
Right.
You have Kevin Overton and you have Federico and you have Christian Anderson, who the night before hadn't played great. They all have really good games. You competed. You feel like you earned a ton of respect, and you're right there. And then you just kind of run out of gas. Very competitive loss, but then you get out of there and like
Hmm.
don't have to put your guys in harm's way again. Um, because I'm guessing if you're shutting down Chance McMillan and Darrion Williams versus Arizona, they're not playing the next day, and then you
You'd
just
think. Yeah.
start, yeah, because you're just this Texas Tech team is very good. They are built for tournament time. However, they are not built for conference tournament time, and there's a big difference.
Yeah.
The everyday is not that's not what they're built for. Every other day or twice a week, which is now kind of what it turns into, they can handle. They're
Yeah.
built for that, you hope. But the everyday scenario and the way this is going, and that's just not something that they were necessarily best suited for. But you're over with that now,
Yeah.
but those two guys, you'll see both of them. I think Thursday night late. It's the latest game of the day.
Very late.
Paxton and I joked that we're night owls because I think they did the same thing to us in Pittsburgh last year. I think we had one of, if not the last game of the day in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
After watching, ironically enough, a 14 beat a 3 in person.
That's right.
It's
That's
only
right.
one. It's only one time in the last 5 years of the two that has happened since 2018. You want to know the other one?
Share it with me.
You will remember it well.
14 beat a 3. Hold on. In the
It's happened
last how many
twice. It's
years?
happened twice since 2018.
14 beats a 3. I'm I'm stumped right now.
SFA beats Texas.
Gosh, I should have known that one. I
Yeah,
should have known it. Yep.
yeah. And here I'm watching Jack Golke for Oakland just
Yep.
beat Kentucky in front of Big Blue Nation
Oh yeah.
there in Pittsburgh. Anyways, but that was a late at night scenario too. But I can't remember where we were going with all that. But yeah.
Well, we it's a late game. Well, the
Okay.
question
Yeah.
that I forgot to ever get to was the health, and you kind of mentioned it there,
Yeah.
but will we have any health issues with Chance McMillan and or Darrion Williams in the tournament?
I mean, I think you're going to deal with it until you don't, and I think the best way to say it, and I think Grant actually echoed this. This is what I thought all along. They're both going to play, but what percentage are we talking?
Yeah.
Like how limited? And then I need to add this caveat in. I feel a lot better that Darrion Williams will be closer to his normal self than I would Chance McMillan. So I. I don't know, but as we have laid out, I don't think you can necessarily make this the norm.
Hmm.
But in normal scenarios, and like to me, it doesn't make any sense. It's a credit to Grant and some of these kids and how good they are. But like you're telling me that Elijah Hawkins, Christian Anderson, Kerwin Walton, JT Toppin, and Federico with Kevin Overton, that's good enough to compete. On paper, it's like, whoa, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
And yet, if I hadn't seen it not once but twice
Yeah.
against two of the top 16 teams in the country,
Right.
I would tell you, yeah, this is really. But I mean, again, can you win a national championship like that? Probably not. And you did lose
Right.
both of the games that I'm saying. But can you play with UNC Wilmington and play with either Drake or Missouri? It's not ideal, but hell yeah, you can.
Sure. Sure.
Because none of those three teams, I don't care how you want to tell me how good Missouri, SEC, and how good Ben McCollum is. I mean, I'm sure he's great. They're not better than Houston or Arizona,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And no offense to Coach Siddle. So again, you're not guaranteed anything though. So you can compete even if you don't have less than, but I just you need to do right by these guys and just try to get them as close to competitive as you can and just kind of see what happens. And maybe those extra hours on Thursday will help you.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's extra hours that you don't normally have. So a 9:10 tip off on Thursday
If
night.
it starts on time.
Touche. Yeah.
I mean, it's the very last. I mean, because
It is
if
it.
I'm
Yeah.
just being honest, when Tech is not in the tournament or whatever, and I've been watching hoops since 11:15 that morning, and my eyes are just glazed over.
Yeah.
It's the one game. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I'm just gonna have to
Just doze off.
see
Yeah.
what happens. Or can't one of these teams just blow out the other so I can like check it in and get ready for
Right.
tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah.
So from a Chris Level selfish standpoint, do you like the really late games so you can watch a lot of games during the day, or would you rather have the really early games so you can watch games afterwards?
I think ideal. So when I was with Tubby and the first time we went to the tournament, we played against Butler in
Really
Raleigh,
early. Yeah.
and it was on Thursday, and I think it was actually the first game of the day. It
I
may have
think it
been the
was.
first tip off of the tournament,
Yep.
and you lose, and then I'm like, damn, I wasn't even. You didn't even feel like you're a part of this deal.
Sure.
And ironically, we're back at the airport later that afternoon. The sun hadn't even come down,
Hmm.
and everybody's watching. Um, everybody was watching Arkansas Little Rock. I think try to beat Purdue. Was it?
They did.
And
Yep.
and it was Chris
That was
Beard.
Chris Beard. Yep.
Yeah, and then lo and behold, did we have any idea? Like 2 or 3 weeks later, it's like,
What's
well,
going to
boy,
happen? Sure.
really interested to see Tubby leaves and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was a part of the tournament. If you were asking me selfishly, I would have probably preferred, like, say, like a
Yeah.
two-ish,
Okay.
because that way you could have watched a little bit, and then you could be done and be home and enjoy all that
Tournament.
is. But in this way, I'll get to see everything.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be up till damn near midnight, 1 o'clock, and that's not really how I'm wired these days. But I'll be wired that day for
Oh,
sure.
sure you will. Sleep it off
Yeah,
on Friday and hope
yeah, that's right.
get rejuvenated for a hopeful Saturday against Drake or Missouri Level. So this is your matchup.
If you get past it,
Right, right.
yeah.
If you get to Saturday, it's Drake or Missouri. Um, these are obviously different styles. Drake is one of those teams that can really slow it down. Missouri is one of a million SEC teams in the bracket. Which do you think matches up better? What I mean, there's Drake's a popular pick for the 11-6 upset for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, I this is one because which I thought was weird that they allowed Drake and Missouri to play right before you on Thursday night, because
Hmm.
that I would have thought it would have been flipped, just because it kind of takes away some of an advantage of being the higher seed,
Yeah.
because they're going to get a few extra hours, and they can kind of hone in on
Yep.
who they're playing. The winner can. I don't know. I just that was a weird one to me.
Because
I
it was
don't know.
opposite last year when you were the
Yes.
6-11 and you
Yes.
you played later than the 14-3
I
upsets you talked about.
I don't know. I don't know who I want to win between Drake and Missouri.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if I'm sitting there going, oh, I mean, I think they both make you a bit nervous. And I guess if I'm being honest, part of you says I think it maybe you're better off against Missouri. But I don't, that may be crazy talk.
I'm not I don't
You've
disagree with
seen
you.
you've seen Drake in person. I think that you're really good friends with, Ben McCollum. You tried to hire him. I think when Grant got this job, I think that was well documented. I think that McCollum, I mean, heck, Mark Adams tried to hire him even before that when he
Yeah.
was still the head coach. Bennett Sturts is a name that everybody's going to know. He's a 6'4" point guard that has done a variety of different things. They've won a lot of games, and Missouri is just Missouri's got to win over Florida. I mean,
Yeah.
the end. Yeah, and a bunch of wins over a bunch of other SEC teams. They just kind of are eaten up by that SEC sandwich, and they just kind of fit in. And they had some. They I will say they've lost. I think they're going into the NCAA tournament having lost. It's either 4 of 5 or 4 of 6, but part of their issue. Now they are closer than Tech is. I mean, to Wichita. I mean, they're 300 miles away, so I would guess that there'd be a lot of Missouri fans. But give me past the Seahawks, and I'll worry about it then.
Yeah. Drake's pretty
Yeah,
close too. Not very far away in
I know, I know.
Iowa.
That's
So
just the way it worked.
yeah.
These are predetermined years ahead of time.
Sure.
I think they're probably already set for even next year, and so it's just kind of the. But this is the way it works when the Final Four is in San Antonio.
Yes.
They're not going to drop many first and second round sites, in or near the state of Texas.
Yeah. And with that, there was a question from Twitter that asked why doesn't Lubbock ever get an NCAA tournament site? It's a better site than Wichita.
Well, the Wichita has it's a 15,000 seat arena. I mean, there's a lot more hotels. Like I'll just be honest with you. There's a lot of hotels in Lubbock. Not a lot of like Overton like or Embassy Suites like hotels.
Sure.
They need to up their game there big time because there's like, I mean, do you realize there's like a big river? I don't if it's like man-made or whatever. I'm learning about Wichita, so don't shoot me here for being somewhat uneducated on it. But there's like a bunch of hotels on the water there in Wichita. Wichita, I think population is about 400,000. It's bigger than I would have thought.
Hmm.
They have two professional teams. This arena, it's home to the hockey team and an indoor football team. So, anyways, I think they talked about that years ago. I think it came down to a lot of like premium hotels
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. Because you need the way this works is like they will have 8 different hotels for these teams, and based on your seed, the NCAA will have gone in and ranked them 1 through 8. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes you can double up and share a hotel, but they'll send Houston and Texas Tech to the two nicest hotels in town, but there's a downtown Marriott, there's a big time Hilton there. There's several things going on. So anyway, I don't know. I probably talked. That's a bunch of word salad, but I just don't know if you have enough. And you've got to bid on it. That's the city's thing,
Yeah.
and Oklahoma City's nearby. Austin has dabbled here. The Metroplex has dabbled here. So.
Yeah. So back to the basketball itself. This question comes from Jacob. It says level, if Texas Tech is going to be able to get out of this region, who is the toughest matchup for the Red Raiders to beat?
I mean, honestly, it's probably Missouri, just because they're big and athletic, and it's one of these teams. But that's by design. I mean, I think. I mean, you won't be surprised at all by anything Drake does. You played these guys. I mean, I think we just touched on that. But Drake was in Lubbock. We love the Drake. I hate the Drake. Right? What was the Seinfeld references? Yeah. I mean, no, they spent their whole team and coaches spent a day or two in Lubbock. They scrimmaged in your building. I think the team may have gone back, but the coaches stayed and attended a social at Grant McCaslin's house. There's a bunch of fantasy campers around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big like, and then lo and behold, like, what? I mean, life has a funny way of working itself out or kind of coming full circle, I guess, and that's one of these moments. Again, if this thing were to hold. But to me, I think Missouri would be the toughest matchup. But I mean, if you think that Drake's going to be some cakewalk, because the thing is everybody in that building that's not a Tech fan, neutral, whatever, they'll all be rooting for the upset and the underdog. And we need to get Ben McCollum's name out there a bit more on the Iowa and the Indiana jobs and all that, so he can get distracted.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because
And
I mean, he is. I mean, that's where he's going to get one of these Big Ten jobs if he wants it. I think.
yeah. And one more tie-in, obviously, Kevin Overton comes from Drake
Hmm.
last year. So
But didn't he played for DeVries at West Virginia?
right, different coaching staff, all
Yeah,
that.
but
But
he did play. He
let's
played at Drake. You're right. And when you're ready to get to the West Virginia portion of the program, let me know,
let's go.
or the Big 12 portion of the.
So yeah, that's exactly where we're going next. 14 SEC teams out of 16, seven Big 12 teams. One of the biggest upsets, I guess, if you want to call it that, in the bracket was West Virginia, who by most bracketologies, bracket projections, was in the tournament. Not even like a first four in, but in the tournament. And then North Carolina, who is 1-12 in quad one matchups, ends up getting that last spot. West Virginia is the first team out. Thoughts on everything
So
outside of Texas Tech in the tournament?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think West Virginia, there's a site out there called Bracket Matrix, which basically
Yep.
pulls the numbers from there's 111 folks that are into this stuff, and I think the Bracket Matrix folks, they kind of decide which 111 because there's maybe somebody out there else that's doing it that's not included in that. Anyway, bottom line is all 111 had West Virginia on their bracket and all that. So the point here, there's a couple of things to point out. One, I'll go back to last week whenever because it's hollow to me now, and I didn't necessarily disagree with them then, but a lot of the tournament shouldn't be expanded purists out there. I kind of agreed with them, like in some ways. I mean, we all want more sports, and all those things.
Yeah.
I don't really want to hear anybody's silliness about don't expand a tournament. Because it's now been proven that there are teams that get left out, and whether that was so Brett Yormark gets up there at the podium last week in Kansas City, and he's asked about a tournament expansion. He's like, feel like 76 is the right number, and he's like, starts talking economics. He's like, the folks at Turner have a great asset, and it needs to make economic sense, i.e., we would like to expand it, but we want you to pay for it. We want you to pay for more of the sports. I don't know if Turner will budge off of that or not. However, the general premise is if this is the way it's going to go, then they should expand it because
Yeah.
if this is going to be a pro SEC or pro ACC, and like I could see why Brett Yormark and he almost had like he was ahead of it. Like he knew that maybe you were going to get screwed. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I mean West Virginia by every metric, they got it. They got it. And if you don't ever think, we'll never know because this wasn't said, but we'll never know how important these conference tournament games are. But word of the wise, don't show up and lose to the last place team in the conference if
Yeah.
you're on the bubble or in the conversation. Probably not real good. And that's what happened. Now, was that the straw that broke the back? Did that give the
Yeah.
committee ammo? I don't know, but
It certainly didn't
it
help.
sucks. No, and then for the committee, because you want to know the first sign that you knew, at least not that this had nothing to do with West Virginia, but the first sign that I knew something was amiss.
What was that?
Did you watch the selection show
I
like as it
did.
was happening?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first sign that I knew that it was when or that it was going to be controversial, maybe,
Hmm.
is when Bubba Cunningham, when he's interviewed, has somebody sitting next to him,
Yeah.
to which he got to go, well, I appreciate you asking me those questions, but I can't answer any of them. here's Johnny, or whatever
Yep.
his name was, the vice chair.
I like the Johnny better.
Um, yeah, that's a Johnny Carson reference from way back in the
Here's
day.
Johnny.
Yeah, regardless of what our thoughts about Carolina being in or Texas being in or whatever, I mean, and they pulled all these different these things that it's like they teach you in debate on the debate team. If you want to win an argument, you pull it's like statistics are no different. Like
Yeah.
pull the data that helps you. This is used in these political debates all the time. Like just point out the things that benefit your side of it. Don't point out the right. I mean,
Right.
you can spin statistics any way you want. Well, they start pulling out quad two. They pull out the quad two record.
They
How
did.
convenient, because West Virginia's quad one record was worlds better than North Carolina's.
Yep.
And then they try to tell you, well, Tucker DeVries has been out. Dude, he's been out for like over 70% of their games
Yep.
since like it was 2024 on the calendar.
Hmm.
Like if that was going to be the case, then West Virginia should have just shut it down when he got hurt instead. Well, I mean, they're going to not put us in. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing was it bothered me a lot, and I didn't think I'd be so fired up trying to cape up for John Denver and the Musket and the Mountaineers, but
I mean,
I feel like they were wrong.
I was bothered by North Carolina, but I'm as bothered by. Uh, Look, I guess I'm used to the SEC bias in football level, and there's something to it in football, and they've had a phenomenal basketball year. But if you go 6-12, 6-12, like Texas and like Oklahoma did in your conference, 6-12, you should not be playing in the NCAA tournament,
But see, they don't care. That's
and
one.
that's stupid.
I know, but that's one of the things that so they directly benefited from being in a league that was so good and everything is quad one. But then here's the other thing, and this is like something that the Big 12 needs to take notice of. And I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here because of the West Virginia
Sure.
got hosed after doing just this. But the SEC was so dominant in November and December, like lapping everybody.
Hmm.
I mean, and including the Big 12. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
Auburn beat Houston, A&M beat you. It went on and on. Ole Miss beat BYU. I mean, I watched a bunch of these. And they just, it was like I think they were like the SEC was what was it like 18-2 versus the Big 12 in the non-conference. And so what the committee is saying is it doesn't like we don't look at conference because this is the way it's stated. They don't look at conference record. It's just all the games are the same. We look where it was, who it was against. It doesn't really matter when it was. We do factor injuries in, good and bad. We factor in neutral court and who you beat and how good they were and all the stuff. And I'm not trying to take up for them, but I understood that more than I did the North Carolina one. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I'm saying.
No,
But
I
like
think
I don't disagree with the conference record, but that was why. It was the November and December, and because everything that they were getting was quad one games essentially. Um, so, anyways, but yeah, I because it's easy to bag on. I'd love to make fun of Oklahoma Tech. They won't last long. I mean,
no.
but like Oklahoma was ranked like we were
Oh,
in
sure.
mid to late December. Weren't they ranked like 15th or 16th or 12th in the country? And
Yeah, they
like
were
they were
almost a top 10 team. Yeah.
12-1 or something. Then the wheels kind of fell off, or reality set in. But maybe it was
I
just
think they
because.
went 13-0 in their non-conference. I think Oklahoma did, and that's the whole reason
Yeah.
that they're
See, I mean,
they're sitting there. So, yeah, I mean, I get what they say. I don't necessarily agree with what they say. It's
I
just
got you. And
it's
that's
where we
and
sit.
yeah, and it's a terrible, terrible look for the last team to make
Yes,
it in with an at-large,
100%.
and their athletic director is the chair of the committee.
Yep,
This is you may never see this again, and it's just a random like occurrence here, but it's a terrible look for all involved. I don't like it. I think it just leads to the rigged talk or corruption and all
sure.
the and having said that, Not that it's necessarily the flip side is not that it's fair. What's like, well, so is my team supposed to take the bullet because I'm the chair and they automatically get kicked to the curb if they're on the bubble talk? I'm not, but that's not the way it worked, and so it's just a bad look, man. And the crazy thing is they could go do a little damage here. They've actually been playing really good lately.
Yeah.
They've lost to Duke a couple of times. No shame in that. How about they've beat everybody else? I think they've won. They're like 8-2 in their last 10, with the only two losses coming to Duke, I believe.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if they make a little bit of noise. Now they're going to have to do it coming out of Dayton, and then I think they have to play. Isn't it Ole Miss if they win
I
that
believe
one?
so. Yeah.
But it won't shock me if they're playing if they win a couple and play into the weekend this week. So I don't know. We shall see.
Level, we shall see you really late on Thursday night as the Red Raiders take on the Seahawks of UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, and real quick, we just have a few minutes left. This is their guy Donovan Newby's from Chicago. He's a point guard. He's but this is not a team that shoots a ton of threes. They are going to. They got for a mid major. They've got a lot of size. They've got a
Mhm.
7-footer,
Yeah.
and they've got a 6'9" kid named Kamari Griffin that comes off the bench. And their 7-footer actually is from Kansas, ironically enough. So he'll not University of, but was originally from the state of
Yeah.
Kansas. But they want to rebound. They want to get to the free throw line. But they don't defend the arc very well. So they give up close to 9 threes a game. I think they're going to want to slow it down just a bit. So this will be an interesting deal. But I don't think that like they're going to have your way with you physically. If some people go, oh, this is a bad matchup because they're so physical. I mean, you've seen Houston, man.
Yeah.
You've seen Arizona. You've seen Iowa State. You've seen as good as the sport has been able to offer up or close to it this season in a variety of environments and with a variety of coaches and all those things. So you'll be just fine. But don't take anything for granted. You start penciling yourself into Saturday. Be careful about that because the madness is called the madness for a reason, and everybody will be rooting for the Seahawks, the neutral folks in the building late into Thursday night.
I'm knocking on wood as I say this, but
Yeah, that's right.
the 3 seed has been really good to the Red Raiders in the past. So hopefully
Yes, it has. And
hopefully
if
it
you're going to
continues.
Wichita, and I hope that a lot of folks are because it's drivable,
Yeah.
it's very close to the Metroplex. Some restaurant recommendations: the Doodah Diner. Everything's made from scratch. The
Doodah.
banana bread French toast. I mean, it's legit. It's
Okay.
like one of the best breakfasts you'll ever have. For dinner, sirloin and scotch, Chester's Chop House. Thank me later. We'll talk next week, Woodman, and hopefully we're talking about going to San Francisco. I love you all. Keep
Love it.
hope alive. Guns up. Bang, bang.
He's Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. This has been the Ask Level podcast brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.